Salut YouTube, Umineko épisode 7, on continue. Petite session aujourd'hui, il y a la Coupe du Monde à 3h du mat. J'ai envie de regarder, et là il est à peu près minuit et demi. Donc une session de 2h, 2h30 quoi, en gros. On va enfin voir la rencontre entre Kinzo et Béatrice, et ça me hype, vraiment. Step it up! What are you doing, slacking off when the fighting's so close? Stars seem to spin around inside my head. Sans visionnage! Oh. Merci le faux. Stars seem to spin around inside my head. I could just lie down on the floor, but that's only make him more angry. I've got no intention of being obedient. Still, it would be stupid to get myself punched for no reason, so I got up and stood at attention. The fighting's close, is it? You really think the American troops are likely to show up on this forgotten island? Then let them come right now. That's what I've been waiting for all this time. What's this cowardly look you're wearing? Is this how afraid you are of death? Are you so scared of those Americans? You won't be killing any of them with an attitude like that. I got it again. Could you please quit your whining already? Filthy cowards. They let themselves be controlled by this inexplicable anger because it's the only way to distract themselves from their own fear. Heart and spirit are confused when the battle becomes hopeless. When trapped by an insurmountable hopelessness, humans tend to rely on several other emotions to escape their fear. For these young, inexperienced soldiers, anger was a very convenient emotion to fall back upon. Anger is the wine they used to paralyze their fear. It made them chant, "Damn the British, damn the Americans," as they swung their bamboo spears around and called it drilling. The more wine you drink, the more you need to drink to get drunk. The useless anger continued to pile up day after day without pause. I did not fear death, so I had no need of the wine called anger. This made their cowardice all the more apparent to me. What's that look on your face? You sure, Mia? You've lost your nerve down to your very soul. You're a fish, that's what you are. You've got the eyes of a dead fish. However, it went both ways. Just as I was able to spot their cowardice, they were able to pick up on my lethargy. Is it sure Mia Kinzo here? The lieutenant's looking for you. Stand up. No slouching about. Double time. First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer in charge of the Rokenjima garrison. He was just another filthy coward trying to forget his fear with violence, and would often reprimand his subordinate for slacking off at the drop of a hat. Whenever he was in a good mood and started spouting off stories of his life, they were all about how much of a thug he had been, ignoring the rules of society. On and on about how so-and-so was a prick, so he taught him a lesson on how everyone was so scared of him that he got special treatment. He kept on talking about what a vile human he was, as he thought it was a badge of honor. Normally he had nothing to do with this lieutenant who I couldn't respect in any ways. He'd always hang around with his non-commissioned subordinates, so as long as I treated him with a snappy salute, I could more or less ignore him for the time being. Now the construction project on this island has been suspended indefinitely, there's no longer any use for an engineer like me. Why did the lieutenant ask to see me specifically? At that moment I couldn't think of anything. Ha, wish you were Mia. I hear you're good with foreign language. Is that true? I'm proficient in both English and Chinese, sir. The lieutenant liked to brag about his education in front of the non-commissioned officers, but he held a bit of grudge against me for being even more highly educated than him. Since he also felt uncomfortable about having a subordinate who was older than him, I wasn't exactly the type he'd be willing to confide in. Just the fact that I knew several languages must have hurt his pride. What about Italian? I don't speak that. So you wouldn't be much help as an interpreter between me and an Italian person, would you? It should be possible if they can speak English as well. Ah yes, very true. Have you ever talked with a foreigner in English? I have. Why on earth would you need an interpreter in a cave or on an uninhabited island that even our superiors forgot about? This question made it clear that some guest had arrived, on Rokenjima who will need an interpreter. Good, assure me you'll be my interpreter. That's an order. That evening I found out exactly what he was talking about. Il y a de l'opéra. A pointless submarine docked in the cavern that had never been used. I was now being approached slowly by a submarine of the Italian Navy. Of course, I knew that the Italians were our allies. However, this was the first time I'd seen anything from their military with my own eyes. What was the Italian Navy doing here? Didn't Italy surrender in 1943? What's going on? It was the Kingdom of Italy that surrendered. However, those who couldn't accept that surrender joined Mussolini and formed the RSI so that they could continue fighting. The RSI? The Italian Social Republic, also known as the Salo Republic. You know your history. The ignorant often call the Italians cowards, think that they surrendered first of the Axis powers in 1943. That's not true. The military of the Italian Social Republic fought bravely from the outbreak of war until April 29, 1945. And Berlin fell just 3 days after that. Pinzo le Nazi! Let's go! La musique sort de nulle part, mais c'est très bien. Apart from being cowards, they gave one hell of a fight. Still, I'm surprised the RSI Navy even had possession of a submarine that could travel all the way to Japan. Even if they did, it's a surprise that they'd come out this far at all. Why would they come to Japan? To Rokenjima? The submarine was both weather-worn and massive. I doubt anyone has ever imagined that foreign submarine would come all the way out here, when we never had one of our own submarine stock. All of the guards on Rokenjima, of which there were only about 30, stood at attention at the submarine docked. Never seen the Italian military before. I heard a mine or some accident trashed their subs. From what I heard, it sounded like their ventilator broke down and the cabin got packed with chlorine gas. The lieutenant was hinting about there being something very important in there. You mean like a code machine of the blueprints for some new kind of engine? I couldn't care less what they're carrying. I'm more surprised that the higher-ups still remember we exist. Higher-up, Ushiromiya, how are you supposed to interpret from over there? Yes, sir. On top of the hatch was a young Italian saluting us. Normally this should have been the job of a commissioned officer, but his clothes looked like those of a sailor, and it really didn't look like he had the dignity and composure of a ship's captain. It probably meant that all the commissioned officer in charge had died in an accident that had befallen this sub. Crew members crawled out of the hatch one by one, but they all looked pale and entirely worn out. I'm not sure how long ago the accident happened, but being crammed together in a tiny sub filled with chlorine gas for any amount of time can't be good for your health. Not only are the ventilators broken, but traveling about carelessly on the surface of the waters around Japan these days will be foolish in the extreme. It had been like a trip inside a can of poison gas. Almost all of them were unable to walk without leaning on someone else. It looked like a bunch of people staggering out of a hospital boat. Ushiromiya, ask them who the captain is. Tell them that I'm in charge of this island. Welcome to Japan. Do any of you speak English? The crew member seems to understand that I was speaking English, but it looked like though none of them could speak it. Eventually, someone who seemed to be dressed as an officer saluted. Welcome to Japan. Are you the captain? I cannot speak English. Please wait. The officer answered in slow, laborious English. After asking us to wait, he shouted something to his subordinates in rapid Italian. It looked as though he was telling them to get someone among them who could speak English. Ushiromiya, what they're talking about. They've asked us to wait. They might be looking for someone there who can speak English. At that moment, I heard a high-pitched cough. It wasn't a man cough. It was a woman's. Oh! The true Beatrice is here! The only one! La tenue de Renaud Séchon. Ta-ta-ta. I speak English. As she came down from the hatch, a woman with beautiful golden hair said yes in English. In this filthy cavern, the appearance of one as beautiful as she was seemed like an angel descending upon us. Welcome to Japan. Is the captain there? The captain is dead. That man over there is the only officer left. My condolences. Can we do anything to assist you? We'd like some fresh air and water. Some of us are still having trouble breathing, and we'd like a place to rest. We will be happy to help. Do any of the others understand English? The ones who did are all dead. I'm the only one left. Mia, what's that woman talking about? Who's the captain? That man from a second ago. Who is that woman? Get strange thinking already, goddammit! The lieutenant has been yelling like for a while now. He must have been surprised to see such a beautiful woman appear from a submarine, and more than a little annoyed to see all of her attention focused on me alone. It was a mark of how divinely beautiful she was. Sir, it seems that she's the only one who understands English. C'est quoi son skin Wesh. It seems that she's the only one who understands English. She will act as their interpreter. Your captain is dead. That officer seems to be acting in his place. Who's that loud man who keeps yelling at you?
Merci Red Slim, et puis GG pour la fin de ton jeu. Je passe finir le mien après.
Who's that loud man who keeps yelling at you? Don't tell me he's your superior. Unfortunately, he is. He probably doesn't like seeing me have such a beautiful lady all to myself. Ho ho. I didn't expect flattery from an Asian. Your English is superb. I imagine you've been brought up very well, unlike the true man who keeps on shouting. They should have made you the officer in charge around here. Oh, and I never expected flattery from a Westerner. You're an interesting man. What's your name? Ushiramiya Kinzo. If you don't mind, may I ask for your name as well? Beatrice Castiglioni. Welcome, Beatrice. Welcome to Japan. That was when I first met Beatrice, the woman who captured my heart for the rest of my life. Beatrice was an Italian. Yes, she was the daughter of a high-ranking RSI official. Apparently their most important cargo was her father himself. Sadly, he had already died by the time they reached Rokkenjima. How would a high official like that come to Japan? You're saying he went through the Suez Canal and crossed the Indian Ocean to come all the way here? That's a good point. If they wanted to reach one of their allies, Germany should have been much closer. So why would they make the long trip to Japan? It may have been part of some grand outrageous strategy. I don't know all the details, but shortly after I learned that the submarine's mission was from a minor one. They say that there have been about 60 of them at the time on their departure. However, only about 10 of them, including Beatrice, had survived. Their submarine had apparently hit a mine or something in the nearby waters and sustained a great deal of damage. They told us that it had flooded rapidly with water, which had taken out the batteries and released a large amount of chlorine gas.
Ce que j'allais dire, Matermine, c'est une nazie en fait, la Béatrice originelle. Et yo, Matermine.
Theirs had become completely incapable of continuing further, nothing but a massive lump of metal floating by the dock.
Mais on entendra par ailleurs à notre Béatrice, parce que c'est pas la même.
Since the sub seemed to be carrying something of immense value, the higher-ups ordered us to investigate. After questioning the Italians, with Beatrice and me acting as double interpreters, we concluded that these things of immense value must have been her father himself. Apparently Beatrice's father was extremely high up in the RSI hierarchy, and it was thought that he might have worked alongside Mussolini himself. Though their massive voyage had apparently been part of some top-secret mission, now that the man himself and all of the commissioned officers had died, their reason for coming to Japan remained a mystery. And our higher-ups were telling us to investigate, which meant that even they didn't know what it was. Their ship had broken down, their mission was unknown, and the high official they had been carrying was dead. And even the Japanese government didn't know why they were here. The Italians' great and perilous voyage had come to a meaningless and utterly fruitless end. That's a relief. I always assumed the seas of Japan would smell like soy sauce. What a coincidence. I always thought Italians had hair made of pasta.
Bon, c'est juste raciste. Ouais, d'accord.
Ah, c'est juste raciste, quoi. C'est bien. Là, c'est... Racisme prime. Of course we do. You don't know how hard it is to get that perfect al dente texture. I imagine you Japanese always spaghetti al nero. I see you've done your homework. Spaghetti al nero, c'est les types de spaghetti dans Battle Tendency quand il y a Joseph qui rejoint César au resto et qui font de l'onde pour se balancer des spaghettis dans les cheveux. C'est... Je connais Jojo à ce point-là. Voilà. Vous pouvez vérifier, c'est pas une vanne. In Japan, we use squid ink instead of shampoo. You really are amazing, Kinzo. It seems you know everything. Have you ever been to Italy? Never. I've read a lot of books, though. An Asian man reading Italian books. Oh, what kind of books? Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavel. Comme par hasard, là partout il y a des nazis, c'est vrai. Eh mais en vrai, il y a peut-être une corrélation de fou à faire. Hein. And Dante Alighieri. So I know of course that you're the internal lady. La façon de draguer est vraiment terrifiante. Hein. Oh, what a surprise. You must be quite the bookworm. Pour être un... Il a cité que 2 auteurs. Pour être un bookworm, faudrait en citer au moins 3. Faut la voir. Does this mean you came from some Japanese noble family? Who knows? You're completely different from those other savage-looking Japanese soldiers. I can tell. You mustn't come from a noble family. Are the Ushomiyas some sort of Japanese aristocrats? Of course not. They just managed to strike it rich in spinning industry in recent generations. I didn't study all that as part of some noble's hobby. I just did it because it wasn't allowed to do anything except read, play around with roses and get myself drunk. There had been no trace of malice in Beatrice's words. It had just been a curious question asked to a friend from a faraway country. However, Beatrice was from a noble family herself, so she could tell. She could see the funny, gloomy look on Kinzo's face. Forgive me, Kinzo. I didn't stop to consider why a high-class person like you will choose to take the position of a common soldier. I don't give a damn about my family line. When I die, the name Ushuramiya will have no hold on me. Then I'll finally be free. So you joined the army because you wanted to die? You mustn't do that. Your family will be so sad. Family? I have no family. I have a wife for the sake of public appearances and children. However, I've never wanted any of them. Everything is a fleeting daydream created by those selfish, greedy elders. So at least while I'm only silent, I can forget about all of that and find some peace. Peace? But haven't I spent each and every day complaining that I wasn't sent to the front and haven't managed to die yet? I can't understand the pain you're going through, but I do realize that my tongueless words have hurt you. Forgive me, Kinzo. Très sympa pour une nazie. Forgive me, Kinzo. Yes, those words are probably what did it. All of the Japanese call me Ushuramiya. It reminded me that I was the property of the Ushuramiya family every time they talked to me. But she was different. She called me Kinzo, not Ushuramiya. But maybe just for the time I chat with her like this, I can forget that cursed family. Kinzo. I hadn't meant to make Beatrice feel guilty, but she seemed certain that her troublous words had hurt me. Thank you. Huh? Since you always call me Kinzo, I finally feel like I'm my own man. I think that I've finally met a person who truly sees me for who I am. Est-ce que vous voulez rire un peu? Est-ce que vous voulez qu'on rigole avec un fact qui est très drôle? C'est qu'en fait, ce qu'on voit là, c'est la première fois qu'on voit Kinzo parler en vie, quoi. Voilà. Faut le dire. Faut y penser, mais voilà. C'est la première fois qu'on voit factuellement Kinzo parler alors qu'il est en vie, en fait. Et il est plutôt sympa, il ressemble pas du tout à l'immense merde qu'on dépeint en 86. Kinzo, you may be a foreigner I met in a distant land, but I can tell that your heart is sensitive and beautiful. If we had grown up in the same neighborhood, I'm sure we would become fast friends. I'm happy too. You always call me Beatrice, not the daughter of the Castiglione family. We were both in the same position. Our Castiglione family must have been a rigid place as well. Though we came from different countries, we had finally found something that we both understood. Do you have a nickname that people close to you use? No, they usually just call me Kinzo. Well, then you should stop calling me Beatrice. All of my close friends used to call me Biche. Bitch quoi. I'd like you to call me that too. Very well, from this point onwards allow me to call you Biche as a sign of our friendship. Oh, come on. C'est vrai. Oh, come on, don't be as old stiff like that. We're already friends, okay? A bright smile stretched across Beatrice's face. No matter how many decades pass, that smile will never fade from my memory. So by meeting Beatrice, you managed to regain your sense of self. Or as most people would put it, cheating on his wife. Yeah. If you plan to continue being rude, I suggest you get in the habit of covering your butt. After having his butt pinched once more, Will hopped around in pathetic agony. But in your eyes, grandfather, Broken Jima was always special because you first met Beatrice here. Ah, attendez, bougez pas 2 secondes. Je dois m'enquérir d'une tâche. Allez, pour 1 minute. Fuck. Et me revoilà. Pardonnez. Pardonnez-moi. Indeed. If I had never come to this island, I would never have met her. It truly is an island of miracles. Is there anything left on that submarine base today? Yes, it's still there near Ecuadorian. It's in the shadows of a cove that can't be seen from the outside. After all, fishermen never approached this supposedly ill-omened island. It's unlikely that anyone besides me still knows of its existence. Is a 2-kilometer-long underground passage between Ecuadorian and Dimension a remnant of that base? That is correct. There was some nonsense about fortifying several locations across the island and connecting them with tunnels carved out of limestone caverns. I made use of that underground passage and built 2 mansions, one at each end of the island. Et les mondes n'ont pas du tout été construits par Kinzo, du coup. Enfin, pas... Enfin, si, mais pas... Enfin, plus tôt qu'on ne pensait. Two mansions, 2 families. You refer me a family mansion and a mansion for the Kinzo released from the shackles of the family. Correct. It was something I needed. Another place for me to escape from the cursed name of Ushiro-miya. Still, I do feel bad for you. Must be awful to have come all the way out here and be unable to fulfill your mission. I didn't really know what Papa's plan was. He said we needed to run far away to hide it until the time came. Ok, je l'ai. J'ai retrouvé mes lunettes, mais elles sont pas là. C'est pas grave. C'est l'or caché. Hide it. Et en fait, l'endroit où il est caché, ça doit être la base sous-marine, j'imagine. L'or de la famille Uchiromiya, c'est de l'or d'un Italien random nazi, en fait. Voilà la théorie. And what is it? I don't know. It was something very important and he planned to hide it for many years until the right moment. Oh, and he planned to hide himself along with it. I know because he apologized to me for sending us to live a long time on foreign soil. Didn't that second lieutenant of yours say that you had no cargo in particular, and that you were transporting your father instead? Lieutenant Angelo doesn't trust you or the others. Even I know a few things he's kept hidden from you. You might even know what Papa's goal was and what the cargo is. Whatever it is, that's a mission for the Italian military. It has nothing to do with us. After all, we're allies. We shall be able to trust each other. I have no doubt that you're a good person, Kinzo. I even told Lieutenant Angelo that you're a man we can trust, but why is that man always get so rigid and uptight when they're in a strange land? Normally they're all very bright and cheery people. Ever since we came here, there's been this strange feeling of tension. Lieutenant Angelo has ordered that the subordinate be armed at all times. That must have thought we were in enemy territory. That was true. The Italians were clearly the very opposite of relaxed. Japanese soldiers, watching this, began to suspect that the Italians didn't really trust them at all. That's normal for a soldier. It is precisely the time for them to straighten up their guard so they don't embarrass themselves in front of a friend in the army. Have a personal stand watch every time they sleep, and they're still keeping a lookout to make sure none of you approach the submarine, even though it's nothing more than an unusable scrap heap now. They must feel as though they're clearly prejudiced against the Japanese, and that bothered me. Sure, they had set up a constant sentry by the submarine and had refused to let any of the Japanese soldiers come near. This hadn't made the Japanese particularly happy. However, submarines are treated as classified in all countries. Maybe it was just natural for them to stop foreigners from approaching it without reason. They're probably uncomfortable with being made to live in a way they aren't used to. The boat that's supposed to take you back to the mainland is still being delayed by weather and problems up the command chain. Just how long will it take before they can send you there? We had been told that a boat was being sent for them directly for the mainland. But apparently, thanks to the weather problems of the command chain and the recent air raids, they had no ships they could spare on a forgotten island like this. There may have been political issues as well. After all, the Italians' homeland had already surrendered to the Allies. GG Lazia, est-ce que tu peux dire à Eno qu'il me débloque mes derniers badges et puis je viendrai finir Je viendrai finir après vous. En toute tranquillité. Attends, tu sais quoi, je vais te dire ce qui me manque. Bouge pas. Mais tout débloqué. Genre, j'ai les 8 badges là. Y a plus rien dans ces hints là. Bah, dans ce cas-là, je vais aller finir alors. Après Umineko, bien sûr. Bah, merci beaucoup. After all, the Italian homeland had already surrendered to the Allies. I didn't know the details. The only thing I knew for sure was they'd been stuck on Rokkenjima for 2 whole weeks and no one had come to get them. Of course we had some small boats on Rokkenjima. There was nothing physically stopping us from taking them to a nearby island. Still, Rokkenjima was technically a top-secret base and contact with the outside world had been strictly forbidden. Well, there's nothing we can do about it, and it isn't a little bad, so really. After all, if a boat did come for us, I'd probably never see you again, Kinza. True. L'amour. To me, those 2 weeks were the first I'd ever truly lived. The thing 20 years before all seemed to vanish in the sparkle of the pair of weeks. I realized that she'd have to leave this place eventually, and yet this single moment felt so rich and dazzling that I felt myself wishing it could last forever. Then I heard a voice calling for Beatrice in Italian. It's Lieutenant Angelo. Looks like he wants you here for something. Probably to scold me. These days he keeps yapping on about how I shouldn't get too friendly with the Japanese soldiers. The second lieutenant approached, saluting Kinzo, and after glancing at Beatrice as though asking her to translate something, he began to speak in Italian. Judging by his tone, it sounded like something serious. Lieutenant Angelo has something very important to say, so he wants to talk with your commanding officer. He wants your help with something. I don't know what. Something important? Got it. I go find Lieutenant Yamamoto. Lieutenant Angelo had 2 of his subordinates with him and wore a stern expression on his face. They didn't have to say anything for us to realize that this had to be something very serious. Music. That's it. Lift it up. The winch creaked and the thick chains rang out with a dull clang. Very, very slowly it was lifted up out of the submarine's cargo hold. No, I get it. This is why those Italians didn't want us near their subs. The first lieutenant and the other looked up at what the winch was slowly lifting up, all of them wearing unpleasant forced smiles. Unbelievable. This is what Papa brought all this way? Incredible. I don't think anything like this. C'était sûr. C'était sûr. C'était sûr. C'était sûr. C'était sûr. Oh là 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 là. L'or est italien. Et nazi. Par-dessus le marché. The mountain of gold ingots. Those carefully peeled bars were being slowly lifted out of the cargo hold, one group after another. This gold had to be their true cargo. I don't know where they were planning to take it. They might have been trying to sneak it into Japan, one of their allies, or they might have been on their way to hide it in some remote area. C'est vraiment de l'or très sale, ouais. Was it some sort of strategy? A conspiracy, embezzlement, top secret transportation of wealth. This incomprehensible amount of gold led to all sorts of dark suspicion, but we didn't know anything about the truth. All told, the gold weighed an incredible 10 tons. It was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. Donc le fait qu'il ait rencontré la sorcière Béatrice, c'est juste une femme qui a... C'est juste une fille de nazi qui a ramené de l'or nazi et... Pas mal. It was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. had strongly resisted showing this to us. However, the submarine could no longer make sea, and it was apparently continuing to take it in water bit by bit. Rokenjima had been... What? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Excusez-moi, je ne sais ce qui se passe. Attendez. Voilà. Pardon. Rokenjima had been outfitted in an extremely slipshod way, so he had no means of repairing it. As although we could unload the sub, there was no way we'd been able to lift it up again once it had filled with water and climbed to the bottom. Without transporting the gold away had clearly become an impossible goal. They had apparently decided on unloading it. Of course, they made no effort to explain the reason behind all this gold. They just asked us to help them take it out. Tu sais que la théorie de l'explosion, je pense, il faut la garder juste pour rigoler, tu vois. Parce qu'il parlait quand même de, je sais pas, une tonne et demie de TNT, hein. Est-ce que c'est sur l'île aussi? Je ne sais pas. They just asked us to help them take it out. Why would they take so much gold out of the country? Couldn't they have changed the course of the war with this much wealth? I couldn't change the course of war, but after the war they aren't useful for anything. Money can also change the course, but it remains just as valuable after the war. There's no longer any way to change the course of this war. The Axis power would probably all surrender, leading to an Allied victory. Anyone could tell us simply by looking at the American planes flying across the sky day after day. However, gold does not lose its value after war. Everyone stared up upwards, dumbfounded, as the wind slowly lifted the jolly sparkling gold. Lord et Umineko aurait pu changer le cours de la Seconde Guerre mondiale. Hein. On en est là quand même. Lieutenant Yamamoto, the Italians don't want us to tell the mainland about this gold. So they don't want us to our country to snatch it away from them. What did he say? He's saying your group probably doesn't want you to report it because you fear that Japan will steal it away from you. Lieutenant Angelo is actually more afraid of Italy itself finding out. To us, our homeland's current government is a mere puppet set up by the Allied force. If they find out, the gold will be returned to them. However, that will be the same as handing the gold over to our enemies. They'd come all this way to make sure that the gold didn't fall into enemies' hands. They needed to hide it from that puppet government until the homeland could be truly restored. C'est vraiment des nazis pure souche, quoi. Pur et dur, quoi. You sure, Mia? Make a proposal to the Italians. Tell them that we wish to offer our assistance. What sort of assistance? Let's see if I've got this straight. They want that gold kept secret so their homeland doesn't find out about it, but they'll need to find at least a transport ship if they plan to carry it off this island. Ça aura jamais quitté l'île, hein, en vrai. Yo Spipers. Allez, la Bosnie. Tu sais que j'avais mis 1-0 Bosnie sur MPP, je suis dégoûté, moi. Dommage. If they try that town, the mainland will hear about it, which means the Italian government will too. That's right. In other words, there's no longer any way to take that gold of Rokenjima. Their mission must have been to hide the gold in absolute secrecy until the day of their homeland's restoration. Later on, several plausible rumors were circulated about how Nazi Germany also moved much of its secret wealth to certain hidden areas in South America just prior to its collapse. It was a very natural conclusion to reach. That submarine was their only method of transporting the golden secrecy, and it's become completely useless. They can't fully stop the water from seeping in, and it probably sink completely before much longer. There's no longer any way for them to transport the golden secrecy. In other words, our mission had ended in failure here in the Far East. So just how is Lieutenant Yamamoto proposing that we assist them? The Rokanjima base is top secret and no one knows about it. The islanders in the surrounding area think this island ill-omened and deserted, so they never come near it. That's my drift, Shiromiya. What did he say? As we told you earlier, no one knows about this base, and as you can see, it's of no use strategically, so the higher-ups have already forgotten about it. It sounds like Lieutenant Yamamoto suggesting that you hide the gold on this island. Beatrice quickly translated this and told Lieutenant Angelo. He began discussing something rapidly with his subordinate. J'ai mis 3-1, oui, ça Paraguay. Je vais me mettre devant à 3 heures. They didn't look happy. Japan may have been their ally, but they probably didn't want to leave the gold for reconstructing their motherland in Asian hands. See, it was hard to imagine any other option for them. A fierce debate. Some say that there's no other option, while others think we should remain loyal to our homelands no matter the cost. J'ai mis 3-1 sur un PP USA-Paraguay. Pour les USA, du coup. Je pense qu'il va y avoir des buts. Ça va être ouvert, je pense. Lieutenant Angelo is stuck between a rock and a hard place. The final order given to them by their fallen homeland was to hide the gold. However, by now there was no way for that order to be carried out successfully. If the mainland or their own homeland found out, the gold would probably be confiscated by the wrong people from their point of view. If they really wanted to carry out their homeland's order faithfully, Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal was extremely reasonable. Though he couldn't understand their words, he seemed to realize how divided they were. If we help out, we'll be able to hide the gold in total secrecy. Fortunately, there's an abandoned tunnel that stretches all the way across this island. He's saying that if you hide the gold underground and bury it on this island, no one will be able to find it. Our side is saying that it sounds like a realistic proposal. However, there seems to be some resistance to accepting Japanese help. It seems they're having difficulty coming to a decision. Do you really have a choice, Italians? You don't think you can hide that gold without our help, do you? And I doubt you want to leave it lying around on the beach for much longer. And Angelo wants to minimize the number of people who know about the gold. He doesn't trust Japanese, but it looks like he's decided that Lieutenant Yamamoto's plan is the best possible option. But he seems suspicious. About what? He's wondering whether they really intend to move a full 10 tons of gold and swear themselves to secrecy, without any sort of compensation. 50%. There can be. Hand over half of the gold to us. With that as our work wages, we'll hide the other half nice and safe for them. He's telling you to give half of it. The instant Beatrice translated that sentence, Lieutenant Angelo slammed his hand on the desk and stood up. Instead of flinching, Lieutenant Yamamoto, true to his boast of once being a thug who everyone feared, actually looked even more relaxed and confident than he had previously. After all, they really don't have the option of refusing. We could demand 80% if we wanted. I've lowered that to 50 as a sign of good faith. Of course, we aren't the only ones with leverage here. If the Italians decide to leak this to the outside, all of the gold would probably be taken by Japan or Italy. We won't get even a single yen out of it. This can only work if we both partner in crime here. I think we should all partner in the crime of embezzlement. But I know he's already moved on to speaking as an individual, not as a soldier. Don't believe it. So the gold has blinded him. Lieutenant Yamamoto was grinning. It really did look as though he had been blinded by greed, just as Beatrice said. If they leave it just piled up where it is, you can be sure that it'll be noticed when the boat comes from the mainland. If that happens, none of us will profit. They ought to accept our proposal and hide the gold as soon as possible. It sounds like Lieutenant Angelo is dead set on the Japanese and Italian government not finding out about this. He wants to carry out his duty until the end. So what exactly does that mean? He wants the gold buried deep within the island, even if he has to pay some percentage to beg you silence. Of course, some of his subordinates object strongly. They're saying that 50% is out of the question. Shiromiya, what are they doing? They also don't want any more people laying eyes on the gold. However, they seem to object to the portions. Lieutenant Angelo says they're considered 10%. But he's also saying that he's fairly sure Lieutenant Yamamoto won't accept that. Sure, Mia, what's the Italian answer? They say that they consider 10%. This time it was Lieutenant Yamamoto who slammed down on the desk. But the Italians didn't flinch either. An incredible tension filled the small room. However, despite his violent outburst a second ago, Lieutenant Yamamoto's expression still looked smug and in control. He was probably confident that he now had the initiative. 10%, now there's a modest proposal. Okay, sure, I'll give up 10%. Let's place in 40, 50, 60. Tell them I won't go any lower than that. 40 for the Japanese, 60 for the Italians. The lieutenant was talking tough, but in truth the negotiations weren't being made on an equal footing. If the Italians had just wanted to go for themselves, there wouldn't have been much of a problem. But what if they were true patriots, and decided to return the gold for the purpose of reconstruction, even to the defeated puppet government of their homeland? If so, they would probably report the existence of the gold to the Italian embassy. Eventually, the Italian government will petition the Allied nations for the retrieval of the gold. It probably will not all make it back to Italy, but it might be used effectively to repair and rebuild the battered towns. If that happened, Lieutenant Yamamoto and his friends will only be able to sneak out a few ingots at most. He was greedily planning to make this his own treasure island so that he and his subordinates could have an enormous fortune all to themselves. He wanted to succeed. The Italian will have to keep the presence of the gold quiet. But there's one thing I don't get. If Lieutenant Angelo doesn't want to let anyone have the gold, he'll just let the submarine sink. Why did he have it unloaded? I'd rather not think about it. But Lieutenant Angelo might have started planning to embezzle the gold as soon as he realized that their mission would be impossible to complete. Right now he's asking his subordinates for their opinion both as soldiers and as individuals whose families waiting for them back home. The more straight-laced soldiers are furious. The discussion between the Italians were becoming fierce and emotional. But their homeland at Poland, they all come all this way in accordance with its order. They had probably been given this mission because they were particularly faithful and duty-minded troops. It seemed that they couldn't just agree to a foreigner's proposal to embezzle and split the gold. Lieutenant Angelo looked like he was doing all he could to calm the expected fervent rage of his subordinates. Looks like the gold is blinding them too. Everyone's mixing up the true feelings without they want to be seen and they can't make up their minds. Oh, the events are coming? Assure me. Guys, Lieutenant Yamamoto is asking for an answer. They're saying they want some time to think. I had you to talk to, so I was able to distract myself from our current situation, but that wasn't true for the rest of them. They lost a lot of comrades at the end of the very long journey, and now they're here in a tight spot. They've even lost their mission to the one thing they could depend on to guide them. They don't know what to do. Sir, they say that they'll like some time. Sure, let them talk whatever all they want, but they better not take too long. If we're gonna hide the gold, that'll take time and effort. Make your decision before noon tomorrow. That's all, Italians. He's giving you until noon tomorrow. That bastard is practically threatening you. Lieutenant Angelo says he'll ask for everyone's thought on the matter. Which way do you think they'll go? It'll probably be tough going. It seems Lieutenant Angelo is willing to consider splitting it, but his subordinates and the other will probably oppose that. One of them have lost close friends on their voyage to the Far East. They're firmly there to do the duty for our homeland. Will they refuse Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal? Even if they do, the gold will just fall into someone else's hands. Nothing is going to be left anyway. Lieutenant Angelo suggests that they each sneak at least one ingot back with them, and some of the others seems to agree, but men always get carried away at time like this. Even I can't guess what they'll do. I imagine the Italians had some complicated feelings about all this. In their eyes, the Italy that surrendered was probably a little better than an enemy country. Letting the gold go back there will make their entire voyage meaningless. However, embezzling and divvying up the gold would also make their whole voyage meaningless. The country they felt obligated to serve had already fallen. That alone destroyed the significance of the journey. Not a happy story for them. If it's bound to be meaningless anyway, wouldn't keeping all of even just a few ingots be better than nothing? Sure, if you want to calculate straight up profit and loss. But men aren't like that. Wheel-based. The Italians were gathered in a cramped room, arguing fiercely. I don't like it. We must remain true to our soldier spirit until the end, for the sake of our fallen comrades. And how do you define remaining true? By hiding the gold on this island? By accepting the proposal of those Asians? Alors, c'est marqué those Asians pour être family friendly dans la traduc, mais je pense qu'à l'époque ça Ça devait lâcher des dingueries. Je pense pas que c'était those Asians, le terme qui a été donné à ce moment-là. Ça a dû être les bridés, les jaunes. Ah, pas un monde où il a juste dit those Asiats. Hein. Pas un. We can't trust them, especially the Yamamoto person. We mustn't let our guard down. And nodding the gold and letting the Japanese see it was a huge mistake. We should let it sink with that sub. A wonderful idea. Let's just sink it right inside the Japanese base. It will be pulled up eventually. That will not anything. It doesn't matter. There's no way to get the gold of the island without anyone knowing. If we had just taken the honorable path and scuttled the sub, none of this would have happened. If we had known them that the sub would be broken beyond repair, why did the lieutenant commander contact the Japanese military and ask for help? Or was he planning to carry out a mission if they found out about the gold? Our mission was a failure for the moment he asked them for help. All of us have families waiting for us back home, and we more than done our part, I'd say, voyaging all the way to this island country in the Far East. You might call this fair and just payment for our services. Lieutenant Angelo, if the Japanese prove to be less than amicable, we need to be prepared to take extreme measures. And what do you mean by extreme measures, Corporal? Someone gulped. A stiff tension hung over the room. The Japanese here are pushovers. They are all cowards with no battle experience. And with the elite, we know the layout of almost the entire base, along with the number of Japanese troops and how they're arranged. If Lieutenant Angelo gives the order, we shall be able to subdue them quickly. Only a few of them, Yamamoto included, look like fighters. The rest are just laborers attached to the Ok. C'est ça qui va se passer, il va y avoir un bain de sang. Et l'or va rester là, quoi. C'est tout. May look like they have the advantage of numbers, but we have the greater military force. If we kill the Japanese, what exactly are we gonna say when the boat comes to pick up us? Nice, Lesia. Bah c'est pratique, je vais pouvoir aller... Sanguinaire, tellement de surprises dans ce chapitre. C'est ça les blagues que tu faisais chez le faux, Matarmine.
Pardon, je répondais dans un salon. En tout cas, je vois où ça va, cette histoire. Pardon, pardonnez-moi. Hop, me revoilà, pardon. Eh bien, Kudo, je finis ma session Umineko et puis je vais finir en bonne et due forme. Voilà. J'ai juste à faire la ligue du coup, donc je reviens 10 minutes et je finis quoi. Vas-y, vas-y, t'inquiète, je me reco dans une bonne heure et je vais m'occuper de ça.
Yo, Kudo, merci pour le raid. C'est bon, je reprends ma session. Et après, je vais finir mon jeu. Bon. Soyons pragmatiques. Hop là. Bon, ça va guerroyer, je crois bien. J'ai comme l'impression que ça va guerroyer, moi. Allez, on est reparti, excusez-moi. There should be plenty of ways to work it as long as the corpses aren't found. Lieutenant Angelo, it will be easy to subdue this base. We kill Umineko and the few strong fighters, the laborers probably surrender easily. Let's have them carry the gold and bury it. Of course we'll have to silence them afterwards. Are you suggesting we massacre all of them? Let's do it. If we kill them all, no one will know about the gold. At that moment, the supposedly locked door opened slightly, and a metal object was thrown in. Granata! As a yell rang out, the table... Ah, une grenade! As a yell rang out, the table was kicked over to be used as a shield, and they all dropped to the floor. However, in this cramped room, it probably wouldn't do them any good. The Italians were all prepared for death. A dud? It's a dud! Fortunately, the shoddy grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open, and three Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in. Damn it, it's a dud. Kill the Italians, kill the Italians! Who's on fire? Fire at will! Ah, c'était sûr. Ça, c'est de l'OST encore. Hein. In the small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of bullets instantly caused a rain of blood, with casualties on both sides. The three who had jumped in were covered with bullet holes and fell over, moaning and thrashing. Gino! Damn, they got his lung. We can't save him. We should consider ourselves lucky. If that grenade had gone off, we'd all be dead. The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged that the negotiations wouldn't go his way and had decided to make the first move. Or maybe he'd been planning from the beginning to put them in positions where they'd gather in one place to discuss his offer. Rokenjima was their island. If they killed all the Italians, then no half but all of the gold would go to the Japanese. There was a chance the grenade might go off late. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. They heard gunfire from down the hallway. It was coming from the direction of the submarine dock. Clearly the troops guarding the pile of gold were being attacked. Lieutenant Angelo, what are your orders? You have no choice. Kill the Japanese. Lieutenant, those guys are good. Those Italians aren't your ordinary sailors. Yeah, I see. They need men good enough to guard that gold after all. You have the numbers. Keep your cool, surround them and kill them. Let's send some Italians. As soon as... Oh! C'est le couloir bah là où est l'or en fait. Donc ça a pas il a pas bougé en fait. As soon as I heard the sound of repeating gunfire, I knew that something which had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded had finally burst. The eyes of our soldiers looking at that gold hadn't been normal. Yes, those eyes had been entranced by demons. The Italians had been pushed to the limits by the heavy burden they bore. Who wouldn't have snapped after being trapped in a distant land where you can understand the language and the writing? Thinking I had to do something, I ran towards the sound of gunfire. Looking back on it, that was an extremely stupid thing to do. That sound meant that there were people shooting at each other, people killing each other. And yet, unarmed as I was, I dashed towards the sound as though I was trying to mediate some schoolyard fight. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive it was in the heat of battle. Hiroka? Warrant Officer Hiroka was lying face down, his entire body drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it was clear that he had somehow managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. I was still twitching. He might not be dead yet, but on the island without a doctor. No, even if we had a doctor who could possibly save a man who had been shot many times in the chest. When I looked into the room he must have crawled out of, I saw two more blunt-state Japanese corpses. Oh, dear.
Clairement là où il y a l'or, hein. Il a juste pas bougé, hein.
I fell backwards, pathetically on my bed, my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I had ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war. Even though millions were dying both east and west, this war was the first time I'd met with a person death directly. Ridiculous. Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Yes, so rejoice, Kinzo. Isn't it the death you were looking for? Why not spread your hands and yell out loud? Come for me, magnificent death. Someone came running towards me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima-kun. He dashed towards me, pale-faced and out of breath. His face seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same. Tajima-kun, what happened? Run away, we'll all be killed. Someone yelled in Italian at the same time. Tajima-kun let out a scream. Then he grabbed onto me as he fell to the floor. A red stain was spreading across his back before my eyes. Tajima-kun, run. As his spat bubbles of blood, he said that one word and died. But the shock of seeing someone die right in front of me did not freeze my heart. At a fundamental level, all living things are unconcerned with the death of others. The one thing that matters is whether they themselves die or not. It was the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing that froze my heart. Tajimakun's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore, blood splatters. The warm splash of it covered my face. Was the Italian trying to finish him off even though he had stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. Can I still not understand the scene in front of me? Rejoice, Kinzo. Now you finally get what you've wanted all this time. The Italian hadn't fired to finish off Tajima-kun. He had been aiming at the man Tajima-kun had fallen on, me, Ushuramiya Kinzo. Ooh, I pushed his corpse aside, scrabbled against the floor and dashed away, trembling over myself. My hands had pushed off against the floor at enough fear of the ring fingernail on my left hand. When faced with death, human truly can resist with all they got. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful, hot, but that didn't matter at all. I heard the yelling in Italian come from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running, chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept on running and running. I thought the Italian were right behind me. This is death. Didn't you want to die? No, I don't want to die. Why? Didn't I want to die so badly? But no, I know. I know how wonderful it is to be alive. He told me. Bice did. I can only be free when I talk with her. No, by talking with her I finally came alive for the first time. I was born. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live and see her again, right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Stay cool, Kinzo. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, you might already be dead. Before I knew it, my face was covered in tears, snot and saliva. When I stumbled into something and fell, I was finally able to come to my senses a little. Ah. I could still hear intermittent gunfire. The gunfight was still going on, and that spread throughout the entire base. Nice. Are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. The lieutenant will probably kill all the Italians to steal the gold. Bice probably won't be an exception. Bice. Bice. I live for the first time after meeting you. I was born, so if you die, I'll die again. I go through every cell in my body being reborn, not as Ushuramiya Kinzo, but as a completely different Kinzo. Of course, I was terrified that I might really be shot if I went back, but I didn't want to die anymore, to truly die, so I was able to overcome my fear. Bice! Ribbons! What on earth is going on? What is all this? There's no need for you to know. Just stay hidden there. Don't come out until one of your fellow countrymen calls for you. I heard an Italian voice. He's over there. Damn yellow monkeys. Voilà. Voilà. Ça c'était plus accurate, je pense. Ruben stood with Beatrice behind his back and neatly shot the two men rushing at him with two 9mm bullets from his Beretta M1934. However, on the 18mm bullet from the Type 94, the Mihoto pistol was straight into Ruben's chest. All three of the shooters were struck in the chest and fell down in a heap. No, Rubens! Go up to the surface. You have to hide in the forest. Rubens! Mama, aren't we chatty? The next person to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of 3 guns had just sounded, adding on Beatrice's scream. It was hardly surprising that he had noticed the encounter. If it had to come to this anyway, we should have taken this woman as a hostage in the first place. Damn annoying that was there. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used that moment to snatch up Ruben's gun. Cha! Well, look at you reaching to pick up a gun without missing a beat. Italian woman sure are scary. Damn it, both of you screwed up. He spat this last part as a two dying men who lay moaning at his feet. However, what had happened to them wasn't particularly surprising. It wasn't the first time it had happened either. In this tiny cramped tunnel, nearly everyone had met head-on. When both sides shot recklessly in such a situation, the result was 2 corpses. So whoever sensed another person and pulled the trigger quickest won. That was the only way to survive this battle without a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italian had killed each other without hesitation, and they sometimes even pulled the trigger on incoming allies. In the midst of all this were several Japanese men who had stumbled into the fight, wondering what was going on. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone had reflexively pulled the trigger as the sight of anyone other than themselves trying to stay alive. The entire base had been wrapped up in this slaughter. Les tueries de Rokenjima, bah y en a eu plusieurs du coup. There was a fierce gun battle taking place on the submarine dock, and a massacre resembling a hunt was taking place inside the base. Most of the non-combatants assigned to this base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were indeed quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began to drop bit by bit. Blood-stained corpses were scattered everywhere. C'est vraiment une île complètement maudite, hein. Fallait pas rester dessus, Kinzo. At first, it had probably been a proper gunfight. However, as their mind began to grow weary and numb, it devolved into that most basic cause of wars throughout humanity, the desire to kill all foreigners you don't understand. Whenever they heard wars children didn't understand, they pulled the trigger. By that point, the screams of foreigners sounded no different from those of mind-chipped beasts. After all, they couldn't understand pleading in another language, so it had long ago turned into a mere massacre. As the number of dead surpassed the number of living, silence began to return to the base. The swing fell after everyone had died, and you could hear the desolate sound of the wind blowing through the caves. There would be a sudden scream, the crisp sound of a gun, and you'd remember that the massacre wasn't yet over. This happened over and over again, and eventually true silence fell. It marked a pitiful end for those led astral astray by gold. Cette île, faut pas y aller, hein. Faut pas mettre le pied dessus, hein. The leader of the Italian soldiers, Angelo, had managed to survive somehow. He encountered nothing but the corpse of friend and foe. All was quiet once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might be shot from the shadows somewhere. So he snuck about like a panther, breathing quietly and searching for remaining enemies. There was no sign or trace of any living person. Maybe all of the people in this base had died. Damn Japanese. Japanese struck first, but at the time we were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men. So perhaps we should be grateful for this day. Even if the bomb had come to pick us up, there would have been no honor left for us. We would have been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. I noticed the sound of shuffling feet coming from around the corner and strained to hear. Is someone seriously wounded and dragging their feet? Noticing them before they notice me greatly malchance. At this stage, there's no point in taking prisoners. I must dispose of all the Japanese. I'll dash around the corner, quickly check to see who they are, and shoot if it's a Japanese person. Nothing more. I've been hiding my footsteps the whole time. They probably don't know I'm here. Once the shuffling footsteps had come close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke Italian. Run. You? I've been looking for you, Lieutenant Angelo. What makes all of you? I've been counting Italian corpses, you see. Lieutenant Angelo, are you okay? Blood poured from Angelo's chest. His gun fell to the floor, then his knees, and then the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with the gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping out, so Yamamoto had made the shot. He had managed to hit, even with a short barrel handgun in one hand and a woman as a hostage in the other. Oh, ça pue cette histoire. Really though, our rocking Jim Garrison was pathetic. Am I the only one who's not dead? Trash, all of them. Can't you fight without using a woman as a shield, you brute? Let go. Quiet. Noisy, the Italian girls. You should just be cooperative, I'd spare your life. It was such an obvious lie that even he wore a bitter smile. The Italians were spies working for the enemy, and they all died along with the garrison in a gunfight. I think this was the story Yamamoto wanted to tell. He couldn't afford to have any Italian survivors. By this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold, but he should be able to grab as many as he could carry. Even that would be worth a huge amount of money. Beatrice suddenly swung her head. Smashing Yamamoto is not hard. Someone help! Someone! Leon! Help! You bitch. He almost managed to escape. However, Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. He fell onto her back and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down on her stomach and pointed his gun at her. If I don't make a hobby of taming tomboys. Die. And Yamamoto, she had nothing to do with this. Let go of her. Kinda jumped out of her shadows. It was only a gun he had stolen from one of the corpses. Shiromiya? Ah, so you're alive. Let go, you're hurting her. It was you, wasn't it? You tipped the Italians off. What are you talking about? Yamamoto didn't know that the grenade had been a dud. He had been sure that the surprise attack would work, but it hadn't. So he'd assumed that Kinzo must have tipped them off. It's your fault the surprise attack failed and we stayed like this. You turncoat, you traitor to your country. I know you've been working with them through this woman. Can't you see that you caused all this because you were blinded by gold? Come on, Kinzo, this man has shot people begging for their lives. He'll shoot you too. Don't talk Italian. If you open your mouth again, I won't hesitate to shoot. It hurts. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's guts. Stop it, stop it! You have nothing to do with this. Oh, are you pointing again at the superior officer? Stop and think a bit, fool. If we're ever to keep to the same story, we can have the pile of gold all to ourselves, okay? I could only grab a few on my own, but if we work together, we'll be able to sneak off with even more. I don't mean this as your superior officer. Let's place it equal between us as a man. The last time you offered to split the gold 50-50, you tried to slit their throats. Assure me, looks like you prefer lead to gold. Without an hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun towards Kinzo and pulled the trigger. It grazed Kinzo right here. If Yamamoto's aim had been just a bit better, the bullet was slammed into Kinzo's face. Kinzo? Who called you? You. Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out and planted her right foot in Yamamoto's crouch. After moaning in pain, demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face and he stomped on her chest. Ice! You bitch, die! Beatrice shut her eye tightly, hoping that it should withstand the coming pain. No one wants to watch the moment they get shot. You. A blood splash poured off Yamamoto's chest. Bien joué, Kinzo. As you took so many lives for your own personal reasons, I'll take your life. For mine. Could Yamamoto hear Kinzo's words until the end? In his last moments, he seemed to grin. Then slowly, he fell backwards with a spurt of blood. Kinzo, are you okay? I was sure he'd been shot. Ugh. Beatrice tried to stand up, but they doubled over and started coughing. Pies, are you hurt? My ribs are hurting. That brute really was thumping them hard. Will you be okay? I hope they aren't broken. Italian women don't break so easily. But thanks. I owe you my life. If you hadn't come, it would have ended here. Yamamoto had shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. We didn't have the option of waiting, possibly for several days, for the ship that was coming. I made the decision to carry her away from the island. The man who kept yelling about preserving the secrecy of the base is lying dead. The next island over, Nejima, is close. A small boat should be more than enough to get us there. I need to take you to a hospital. The wound might be more serious than you realize. Interesting. I never knew there was a hospital on this island. There isn't. The boat should get us to the next island over. We'll get you to... C'est les îles Séville ou quoi? As for me, unless I cleverly cover up what happened on this island, I might end up getting court-martialed just for being here. I have a request. Please don't take me to a hospital. Why? If we go to a hospital and the embassy is contacted, I'll eventually be sent back to Italy. If that happens, I'll be interrogated about all kinds of things. I won't acknowledge the bastards who let Mama dies. There's no homeland for me to return to now. It is the end for me, so there is nowhere I want to go anymore. Then Angelo, Rubens, everyone who was so kind to me, they're all dead. And because of that you want to die here too? I thought you said Italian women were only weak. Leave! Hey Kinzo, what does it mean to leave? You're the one who told me, aren't you? Living is more than just breathing. I don't want to go back to Italy. Nice. You said that you were dead until you met me, but it's the same for me. I died in that submarine. My homeland fell, Mama died, even Papa died. I prayed that our sub would just sink to the bottom of the ocean. So when we reached this place, I was actually disappointed that we survived. Then right after that, Lieutenant Angelo started asking whether anyone could speak English. When Kinzo met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying. And when Beatrice met Kinzo, she also forgot about dying. Now that I've lost my homeland, my family and my friends, my only wish is for you to kidnap me and take me away with you. Oh bah d'accord. La Belle et la Bête. Pies. I know that's a wish that couldn't possibly come true. But at the very least, I want to be with you until the boat comes for us. I don't care about the pain in my chest. After all, when the boat comes and takes me away, I'll die. Beatrice poses, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her chest. Please, Kinzo, just for a few days until the boat comes. Kidnap me. C'est beau en vrai, si seulement elle était pas nazie. Oula! That's a wish I can't grant. Looking apologetic, Kinzo lifted Beato and gently sat her in the boat. Coward. So Japanese men are weak after all. You're right, I am a coward. But I can only grant you half of your wish. With a clunk he placed it, wrapped in a jacket, in the boat. What do you mean? The part about until the boat comes for you. That's the part I can grant. Huh? What do you mean? Kidnapping you? That part I will do. Kinzo? There has to be a doctor on Ninjima. I'm wearing a navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself as a survivor of a boat carrying a VIP that was sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be on the greedy sort, all the better. After all, I've right here the golden magic to make people do what I say. Oh! Je trouve de toute façon que Flashback réussit à me faire ressentir des trucs pour Kinzo. Quand même le pire personnage moralement du jeu. Bah totalement. C'est fait pour ça. Hein. C'est pour ça qu'il l'appelle sorcière en fait. A witch from a distant country took my lifeless body and gave me a soul. A woman came to me with the gold and revived me with her magic. You are a witch, the golden witch. Eh,
C'est le mime de DiCaprio devant sa télé qui pointe là avec sa bière. Yes, the Golden Witch. Even though I use the same recipe as everyone else, only my alchemy can turn pasta into a smoking black heap. Just like you, I'm nothing but a corpse, allowed to live just as long as you're with me. If you go, I'll die straight away. I won't let you die. Really? No matter what? Take responsibility, okay? After all, you're the one kidnapping me. Ah, la Golden Witch. En fait, c'est juste un petit surnom d'amour qu'il lui donnait, quoi. Finalement. Très beau flashback, en tout cas. Très très beau flashback. I see. So Kinzo-san told you that much? That why it was you? You're the Nijima doctor who grandfather took Beatrice to see? Oh! Oh, c'est incroyable, ça. Why so shocked? It should have leapt to the mind ever since the word Nijima doctor. All of a sudden, a soldier of the Navy appeared along with a foreign woman. Of course, I was astounded. And then he actually told me to treat her wounds confidentially since the present was a military secret. Was that the first time you met grandfather? Yes, that was when you first met. C'est pour ça que c'était son ami de confiance aussi, je pense. So you're the greedy doctor who followed orders for the sake of gold? That's a bit harsh. He suddenly brought in foreign woman patient, explained to me that it was a military secret, promised that he paid the medical fees later and handed me a gold ingot as a collateral. I didn't want to get involved with any funny business. I was reluctant to say the least. I see your point, but in the end you did conceal Beatrice, didn't you? I may not be as skilled as Kinzo, but I do have some familiarities with English. I managed to overhear part of the conversation, and that was enough to convince me that they were not troublesome people. Of course, if I were to say that the ingot didn't tempt me, that would be a lie. I was much younger then, you see. What happened to her next? I treated her for some time before a messenger from the Ushumiya family came and said that she would be moved to Odawara, then took her away. So grandfather didn't come to get her himself? Regardless of how Kinzo explained away the incident on Ryokanjima, he probably wouldn't be able to move about freely for some time afterwards. Precisely, Kinzo had said that deceiving the military is the greatest challenge of his life. So Beatrice went to Odawara, and then what? I've heard that she hid in one of the unused villas. After all, Kinzo already had a family at the time. It must have been tricky to manage. So leading a double life was business as usual for Kinzo even before Kuwadorian. Whoosh. What are you doing? Is your butt itching? Cheh. And later on, Beatrice and grandfather continued their happy relationship in the villa from then on? I've heard that it was a modest, peaceful life. Several years later, they had a child. So Kuwadorian's Beatrice was born. Pas d'homunculus, hein. Ça, c'est toujours la théorie n'est jamais restée au final. Hein. The birth didn't go well. It was truly a sad tale. You don't mean she died? Don't be surprised. Kinzo believed his daughter was Beatrice reborn. You can't neglect their heart. It's possible to reason it out. You're right. My apologies. I don't know how many years Kinzo-san spent with her in Odawara. However, judging by the Kinzo-san we grew to know afterwards, one can tell how deeply he loved her, even if they only had a few years together. I see. And then he made Kuwadorian for his daughter. Donc, Béatrice, l'original, c'est elle qui est morte à l'accouchement? Attends. Oui, c'est ça. En gros, la fille a vécu, mais pas la mère, quoi. Et c'est pour ça qu'il croyait à Béatrice Reborn, quoi. Kinzo-san cleverly made use of the submarine's gold to build up a fortune in the flesh. Then he made use of a considerable skill in English to make connection with the GHQ, becoming immensely wealthy in a short span of time. There's no need to explain this part to you. Leon-san! Yes, he used that vast wealth, both Ryokanjima and built the mansion. The remaining relatives in Odawara scoffed at grandfather, thinking he was crazy to buy an entire deserted island. You could carry 10 tons of gold around in your pocket, and you probably wouldn't have bought Ryokanjima. He hid the gold somewhere in Ryokanjima,
built up a fortune with the ingots he'd taken out of it and then bought up the whole treasure island. Exactly. And that started the legend of the Uchiromiya gold. What about the mark of the one-winged eagle that was supposedly pressed into the ingot? The one-winged eagle, or more precisely an eagle of which only one wing is visible. What do you mean? You see it often in Europe. Oh non, c'est un truc nazi encore. Oh non! A crest or coat of arms, an eagle spreading its wings on it. The flags of the Saddle Republic also had an eagle, or was it a hawk? At any rate, it had some birds of that type emblazoned on it. But the imprint was made too lightly, or else it was poorly done. Correct. They used a rough rotten press. It was probably supposed to look like the crest of an eagle spreading its wings. It was pressed in a slight slant, so half of it was too light to see. So half of the eagle spreading its wings disappeared, making it look like a one-winged eagle. On apprend un truc minute là. C'est pas des trucs oméga importants, mais ça reste trop bien pour le lore, genre. Est-ce qu'on va avoir des réponses à vraiment littéralement tout? C'est ça la vraie question. Bah, le logo, ça aurait été une croix gammée, juste. Avec un aigle par-dessus, peut-être. Mais un vrai aigle. That must be why he decided to make that his own crest. Est-ce que toi aussi c'est une blague? Je vais le faire tout le chapitre. If the imprint had been made correctly, it would have been the eagle of the Saddle Republic's flag. Or could it have been the two-headed? Oh no, of course not. Passing the night away with Kindleton in front of that massive pile of gold, drinking and wandering was really an enjoyable experience. However, Kindleton didn't want people using this seal to figure out where the gold had come from. The gold he took outside was all repressed with the one-winged eagle design he had created. And all he did was show you the gold. What a cheapskate. Of course, after I became immensely rich, Kindleton came to me once more, saying that he'd pay me in full for the overdue medical expenses. The amount he came with was a bit much for medical fees, so I did make sure to give him his change. And you've been friends ever since? Yes. Kindleton was extremely grateful to me for keeping his secret and concealing Beatrice. Grandfather always said that the old relatives in Ottawa are a bunch of greedy liars. I'm sure you appreciate your strong sense of duty, Dr. Ninja. I think I understand why a person like Grandfather came to trust you. I also had some interest in foreign countries, as well as a hobby of playing chess. Kindleton and I have gotten along well ever since. It was a friendship that built up gradually but grew strong before we knew it. Yes, we have been friends a very long time. People who deal with large amounts of money tend to be quite mindful of small amounts as well. When you refuse to accept anything more than the medical fees, that must have earned you his admiration. Ridiculous. I was just frightened by the large quantity of the money. I began to regret it later. It seems I never had rare guts. No need to worry there. Guts are one thing you've got no shortage of. You think so? Well, I appreciate the flattery. That wasn't flattery. For at least one whole year after Kinzo's death, Nanjo had taken part in hiding the secret of that death. Of course not, so he must have given him some hush money. Still, there could be no doubt that he had enough guts to withstand pressure from Kinzo's children for a long time without slipping up once. And that's something that takes real guts. That sense of Jichi must be part of your personality. Perhaps that is my only redeeming quality. I think Grandfather was blessed with a good friend. Très belle musique. I think I've learned just how much the woman called Beatrice influenced Grandfather's life. We haven't learned anything. Who killed Beatrice? Unless we figure that out, we'll never be able to get out of here. right. We need to finish this quickly. Funeral is already over after all. You've got it all wrong. This is the funeral. You mean what she's making us do? All of the Beatrice we heard about so far weren't killed at all. We're trying to understand where the word killed factors in. That's the real funeral, as far as Buckner's are concerned. No one knows about her being killed. And that's the truth we're trying to expose. You're pretty sharp, aren't you? It oddly feels like I'm talking to a piece from the lower plane. So this is why I was giving you as my Watson. Oh, don't get your partner a piece. So what next, Willard Holmes? Oh. Step 1 of holding an investigation and questioning witnesses, of course. There's still a Beatrice we need to ask about. To indicate whom they should talk to next, Will nodded in the direction of George, Jessica, and Maria. Maria seems to be lecturing the others about something. Whoa, Beatrice sounds pretty incredible. Yeah, and then inside an upside-down cup, she made tons of candies appear out of nowhere. Inside the overturned cup? Amazing. Sounds like magic to me. Maria-chan really does love witches and magic. We could hardly avoid consulting our local authority on witches. When looking for someone to ask about Beatrice, Maria rose to the top of the list. The Beatrice she spoke of wasn't the real Beatrice, the one Kinzo and the others had talked about. However, here and now on the Rokkanjima of 1986, the name Beatrice probably refers to the person Maria always talking about. I don't see Battler anywhere. Ushuomiya Battler, the one who was forced to fight as Beatrice's opponent in many games, and the most important person in this game, this tale. A battler in this world will probably be the peace version, but even so it should be possible to get some vital information out of him. Will probably wanted to talk with Battler too, but he was nowhere to be seen in the cousins group. Battler did not attend this funeral. It's a shame seeing as he's the cousin closest in age to me. Are you two on good terms? Yes, mais il était là, Battler, non? Bah, il était là, il a mis le truc dans la... Dans le... Il a mis un truc dans le cercueil au tout début, genre. Yes, of course. And you pinched his butt every time he said something perverted. Oh, how did you know? Did your detective instinct tell you that? Poor guy. Bern Castell said that everything we needed was gathered here. Since Butler isn't here, that probably means it's possible to find out everything without asking for his side of the story. Or maybe she's intentionally hiding the core elements and making us take the long way around, as part of some Fickles witch's game. Since he isn't there, that probably means there's no need to hear his story for the time being. Let's talk to Maria and the others. I won't say anything perverted, so keep your hands off my ass. Then why not try choosing your words a bit more carefully? With a roguish smile, Leon pinched the air, index finger against middle. Oh, it's our successor, Sama. Are you done babysitting the old geezer? Yeah? At least Leon was impartial. No mercy even for Jessica. Will felt a bit gratified. I see. Since you're the successor and Crow's child, then Jessica is your little sister. He was so used to Jessica being an only child that, so the scuffle between the two looked perfectly natural. Something didn't feel quite right about it. Jessica, can't you talk a bit more like a little sister supposed to? And while we're at it, why not try talking more like a girl your age? How many times do I have to tell you to stop calling me Successor-sama? Shut up! I'll live the way I want to. I'd suffocate if I had to act all refined like you, Successor-sama. Yep. Ow! Ow, ow, ow! Stop it! Don't pinch me! This little sister abuse pervert! Stop it! Ow! Jessica, why are you talking like that in front of a guest? Do you want Mother to scold you again? Looks like the two are close in their own special way. Well, Leon is an excellent person to be the successor without any fault. Bon, Georges le pédophile, on t'a pas sonné, je crois. Reste dans ton coin. I guess I understand how Jessica Chan feels. But Leon might be a bit too perfect sometimes. She gets compared to Leon, no matter what she does. And that made her a rebel? If Jessica Chan had been born an only child, I'm sure she would have become a composed quite long later. Pas du tout. That's an interesting thought. Don't worry, that wouldn't be enough to change her personality. George Chan, who is this person? This is the first time we met, right? You seem to know a lot about our family. I'm George and this here is Maria. Pleased to meet you. Call me Will. I'm investigating Beatrice. Please tell me what you know. Beatrice? See, Beatrice exists. Though Maria had looked hostile towards this unfamiliar man, as soon as she heard the name of the witch she loved pass his lips, her eyes began to sparkle. Hey, Maria-chan, you've got to greet our guest properly. Hello, my name is Ushiramiya Maria. I'm glad to meet someone who knows Beatrice. Handshake. Maria suddenly stuck out a small hand and Will reached out for it reflexively. As soon as he did, he felt a bright light seeping out from the gap between their hands. The theater-going power that Burn Castle had given him had affected Maria. Beatrice is the witch of Rokanjima. She plays with me every time I come here. She's my best friend and a fellow member of Maria Sorcière. The light grew brighter and brighter. This time he could feel himself being drawn into Maria's world. I'm Ushiramiya Maria. My mama is Rosa. My papa. I don't have a papa. I think I remember Mama showing me a picture long ago and saying, "This is your papa." It was a picture of a man with a dark suntan on the beach wearing a swimsuit. Later on, when I learned what papa meant, I asked Mama to show me that picture again, but he said it didn't exist. But it had to have existed. When I drew a picture of it and showed it to Mama, she got really mad and said it didn't exist, or that if it did, she had already thrown it away. Ever since then, she kept saying that I didn't have a papa. Did you know? People say you need a papa and no mama to have a baby, but that's a lie. Virgin birth says it. Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they call his name Emmanuel. C'est Macron, quoi. If I was a boy, that might be my name. Book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 20. No, verse 23. Verse 20 is, but while he thought on the things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto this Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is son of the Holy Ghost. So your father is the Holy Ghost? Everyone said that everyone has a papa. They said it was strange to not have a papa, that I was a weird, pitiful child. But when I asked Mama, she said I didn't have a papa, that she didn't exist. She got mad and hit me even though all I did was ask. So I didn't really understand who gave birth to me. I was an immature and misplaced creature, not a proper human. I realized I was a strange, pitiful girl, different from everyone else. Ça me fait tellement de peine. Les mots sont durs, surtout quand elles viennent d'elles-mêmes, genre. It doesn't matter who your parents are or what other people say. You are who you are. It must have been hard to teach that to a young Umineko kid. My kindergarten teacher might say that to me when I cried after being bullied. But even those words of encouragement couldn't fill the blank space. No, the questions. Those words couldn't answer the questions in my mind. And the book is what gave you the answers? A priest came to see me. It was probably part of some lesson to enrich the minds of children through an edifying tale. To most of the children, it was just an ordinary fairy tale that might have heard from one of the teacher. Actually, I think we were just bored because it was too hard to grasp. Then at the end, the priest said something important. That God knows everything? Yep. So I asked him, I only have a mama. I don't have a papa. Mama gave birth to me without a papa. Was that a strange sad thing? I asked. The priest told me, there's nothing strange about a child having no papa. After all, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, and the one who gave birth to him was the Virgin Maria. Wow. On est vraiment sur l'autiste of all time. Hein. No opens, bien sûr. Hein. On est sur la out, quoi. C'est de l'autisme poussé très très loin.
surprised. Maria, the name I was given, had been showing me to the answer all along. I was so shocked, I asked the priest to say it again. He said that the Virgin Maria gave birth to a baby by herself. So I asked him if that meant I could give birth to a baby all by myself too. And how he answered that? He said the Virgin Maria was with child because of the Holy Ghost. The second part of the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 20. For that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost. That surprised me again. What do you think that means? He interpreted this to mean that Maria had no human father. That her real father was the Holy Ghost. Regardless of the Bible's original meaning, this young, sad girl, whose lack of a father had caused her to lose a sense of identity, had finally created a way to understand herself. Once I realized that, I knew I was different from all the other kids. The ones who made fun of me were all children of Joseph, but I alone was different. I wasn't worse than everyone else. I was a child of God, a child of the Holy Ghost. When I got back, I told Mama I had no papa. Mama gave birth to me thanks to the power of God. It was probably painful for Rosa when Maria asked about her father. Why did Maria have no papa when everyone else had a papa and a mama? C'est tellement triste pour elle en vrai qu'elle se... Surtout elle est morte avant de se rendre compte quoi. C'est vraiment la tristesse absolue quoi. Absolue de chez absolue quoi. Every time she was asked this, Rosa flew into a rage and changed the subject. Then for some reason, not on her own, Maria had found an answer that satisfied her. She had no papa, she was the child of Mama and God. It isn't too difficult to imagine that Rosa, after hearing this young girl's explanation, might go along with it and thought it was true. Beato said that the minimum number of people needed to create a world is 2. I thought she meant that you need 2 parents to create a child. That's when I thought of it. Beato may be a witch, but she's a witch born of a human. Beato isn't a child of the Holy Ghost. But I'm different. I was born from Mama alone. I was born of the Holy Ghost. Beato can't create a universe without me, but God is always by your side. I can make a universe all by myself along with the Holy Ghost. Beato called me the Witch of Origins, and she also said that eventually I might become a creator who could create anything alone. All by myself I can create something out of nothing. C'est tellement triste, genre... C'est horrible, horrible. Beato can take that and extend it into infinity. Ange was the witch's apostle who would spread the word far and wide. And that was Maria Sorcière. There's a huge difference between 1 and infinity. That's why Beato is so great. However, compared to the difference between existence and non-existence, 1 and infinity are nearly the same thing. I am the child destined to become the best witch? No. The greatest creator in the world. Maria Sorcière was the nest to prepare me for that. I am Ushiro Maria who stands by God's side. If we liken Maria's sense of identity to a universe, then this endless stream of words coming from her might be like the Big Bang. She spent so long tormented over how to interpret her lack of a father. Then by chance she saw a line in the Bible that looked like it secretly referred to her, and she finally formed an understanding for herself. The sad girl, who had hated herself for being different from all her classmates, finally found the meaning for her existence. At that moment, Maria's universe, which had once been nothingness, was born as a clump of ultra-hot, ultra-high pressured energy. Then later on she went to Rokkenjima, met the endless witch who called herself Beatrice, and the clump of energy exploded in a big bang, giving birth to their magical compendium. That was the universe known as Maria Sorcière. You're jumping about a bit too fast. Let's take things one at a time. Sure, where do you want to start? After you decided that you were the child of the Holy Ghost, it's easy to imagine that you gradually became more and more interested in the occult. And then what? Once you reached that state, where did you meet Beatrice and how did the two of you interact? Where did it happen all of a sudden one day? I wanted to meet the witch called Beatrice who lived in Rokkenjima. I wanted to meet her as a feather witch. At that time you already knew you were a witch. I did. Even then when it came to the Bible and the occult, I already knew as much as I knew adults. So even though I couldn't use magic, I believed that I was a witch. It's a bit funny, isn't it? That's why I was only a witch apprentice. When did you meet Beatrice? I don't really remember when.
But I do remember what it was like. It was really, really sudden. Hein? So you're... Mais quand, comment, quoi? C'est dans sa tête encore, j'imagine. So you are Ushiromia Maria, I presume? It was so very sudden. I was just drinking some milk tea all alone in the rose garden arbor. Mama said she had to talk about something important with Uncle Cross, so she told me to go outside and play. Suddenly she was sitting right there. I didn't know anyone who spoke that way. I quickly realized that she was someone I didn't know at all. Who are you? You're the one who wanted us to meet. Here I am, welcoming the witch who came to visit my island, and yet you ask my name? Beatrice. Precisely. Bah, c'est dans sa tête, hein. Oh, la pauvre, en vrai, ça me fait tellement de peine. Elle s'est tellement fait traumatiser par sa connasse de daronne qu'elle en a inventé tout un monde. C'est terrible. I'm Beatrice. Yeah, that is pretty sudden. Yep, really, really sudden. There are witches and spirits right next to us all the time. They just choose not to show themselves. And when they do show themselves, it's always sudden. I thought they'd been there the whole time. That's what I learned that day. And then you and Beatrice became friends. Yeah. She stayed and chatted with me the whole time until Mama was done with her work. We talked about magic and witches, and about how I was a child of the Holy Ghost. And what was your impression of Beatrice then? I don't like saying it, but my knowledge at least was better than hers back then. At first I thought she wasn't very good witch. Well, that was just my conceit. There are so many different kinds of magical compendiums. Plus, mine was based on self-study. I probably only viewed Beato that way because her magical compendium was different from mine. It wasn't long before I came to regret that and apologized. Apologized? Did Beatrice do something to win your respect? I see. So she showed you magic. We moved to the beach and talked a lot, sitting at the table under an umbrella. Very interesting, Maria. I see you have been quite diligent in your studies. At your age, to be capable of teaching a 1,000-year-old witch such as myself is truly an accomplishment worthy of admiration. So what sort of magic can you use? Magic? If you call yourself a witch, you must be able to show me some sort of magic, correct? I was stunned for a second. Of course it should have been obvious. I was a child of Holy Ghost, and since I studied much of the occult, I was also a witch, not a human. Until that day I had been so sure of both of the things, so when I was asked what sort of magic I could use, it left me in daze. When one knows of magic and can speak of it, they finally reach the rank of apprentice. One is only a witch if they can put such knowledge into practice and use magic, correct? So I'm not a witch yet? You have studied well, and I can sense very rare talent within you. One day you may become a witch so great that even I could not compare, or perhaps even a creator as you have told me. However, you are still young and immature. You are, yes, you are an apprentice. A witch apprentice, you might call it. But does that mean you can use magic, Beto? Of course. I could not call myself a witch otherwise. Incredible. Show me. I want to see your magic. Until this day, Maria had never adopted the magic-themed idea that she was the child of the Holy Ghost. However, no one had ever proven to her that occult phenomena actually existed. Maria could create a universe all by herself. However, she wanted to share it with a second person so that she could believe it in ever more strongly. Once I could have drawn a rainbow in the sky, transformed it into 7 colors of candy and eaten them as my leisure. However, my power has weakened so much that I cannot even preserve my form to my satisfaction. You told me about that. You can't use your full power because of the shrine. It will take quite some time before my power returns. At this moment I cannot turn rainbows to candy. However, perhaps I can show you a bit of the power with some simple magic. I wanna see your magic. Very well. However, I must ask you for assistance. As I have already told you, no matter how porous one might be, holy ones are tainted and filled with a toxin that resists magic. Yeah, I remember. You told me about the anti-magic toxin. It wasn't in any of the books I've read. You must really be incredible to know so much. Beatrice lifted up an empty teacup, then turned it around in front of Maria to show that there weren't any streaks or strings. Right, the magic to make candy appear inside an overturned cup. How did you know? You're incredible, Will. You even know about witch magic. It's the most basic sort of witch magic, after all.
It was just a normal cup without any tricks in it. I wanted to see through magic. There was a thing Maria desired. The stranger believed that there was an occult side to her. She wanted to see the occult outside herself as well. That's why she agreed to help Beatrice with her magic. She didn't want her own toxin to ruin her chance of learning the miracle of magic. Good, then try looking inside that cup. Ah, there's candy! There's candy! As a gift to mark my meeting with a new witch and as a sign of our friendship, I offer this to you. It is a true miracle of magic. For the first time I felt shame and embarrassment at my conceit. I could feel that some sense of omnipotence disappear. The idea that I was a child of the Holy Ghost and the most important and special person in the world. Instead of a child of the Holy Ghost who can't actually do anything, I'd rather be a witch who can use magic. Ushurmiya Maria wants to become a witch, starting off as a witch apprentice. I was already fascinated by Beato. I want to become a real witch too. I want to be a disciple. Oh, modest, you already have an abundance of talent and diligence. Also, toys may have been different when I was with full power. I cannot take on a disciple in my current state. So I can become a witch disciple. Correct. You cannot become my disciple. However, you can become my friend. Really? Indeed. From this point forth, we shall be friends. Let us continue to discuss the deep and profound world of witches. Thank you, Beto. Can I eat this candy? Now let that be a souvenir. Instead of eating it, keep it in that adorable bag of yours. Okay, I'll eat it at home. Maria, that candy was brought into being by magic. Therefore it is fragile. If you deny my existence with a toxin of yours, it will melt and fade away. No, I don't want Beato's precious magic to disappear. And be sure that you do not forget your meeting with me. As long as you keep a little promise with me, I shall be here to greet you when you return to this island. I keep it. What's the promise? Well, to start, when you get home, wash your hands, then rinse out your mouth. You must not complain about this, for it is an important part for witch apprentice training. Haha, okay. I'll do it. Every day when I come home, I'll wash my hands. I'll rinse out my mouth. If I do that, will I see you again? I promise it. If you purine of the promise, your body will be cleansed and I will regain even more of my magical power. If that happens, I will show you even more incredible magic the next time you come. I keep my promise no matter what. I'll do it. I'll become your friend and the witch apprentice. You resolve this art language, your Mia Maria. Il y a un monde où c'est forcément juste... si ma théorie est bonne, peut-être juste Shannon et genre... elle lui dit des conseils pour les gamins, genre brosse-toi les dents et tout. Et elle lui fait croire un peu en la magie en faisant des petits tricks. C'est fort possible. Ou c'est complètement dans sa tête, mais si c'était dans sa tête, elle lui dirait pas, ce serait pas brosse-toi les dents, quoi. C'est ça qui est bizarre en fait. You resolve his art and show me Maria. I hope you will grow to become a full witch and my close friend soon. Yo Clem, dis-moi tout. J'espère que t'as vu mon com sur ton Walkix Will Work. J'ai mis beaucoup de temps à faire le prompt. Je suis un peu dégoûté puisque t'as pas répondu, quoi. Écoute à la fin. Là, je mute audio du bureau. The World. What? J'ai bien entendu ou pas? Byakugan! The World! C'est tellement nul! Byakugan! The World!
Il y a 15 ans ou quoi, le frère? Merci pour ça, Clem. Byakugan! The World! Merci pour ça. Je l'aurais jamais vu tout seul, je pense. Byakugan! The World! Magnifique. Ok. Je reprends. Merci beaucoup pour ça. Et réponds à mon commentaire sur ton Walk X Will Work parce que j'ai mis du temps à l'écrire. C'est pas vrai. I think that was the first time I met Beatrice. And was that candy still there when you got home? Yep, but I doubted a little so it was all melty. I regretted almost doubting her. If I doubted her more, the candy will disappear completely. I almost lost the proof of the magical miracle that had happened before my eyes. A piece of candy melted. I think it was more of a caramel than no more candy. A little lumpy, just starting to melt. About what time of the year did this happen? I'm not too sure. I remember that the milk tea had ice in it. Why does that matter? Never mind. Did you tell Rosa about your meeting with Beatrice? Yep. I told everyone about it at the dinner that day. Uncle crossed a lot at me. Then Mama, who was sitting next to me, got mad and told me to stop talking about it. Next to you? By your family's ranking system, you said shouldn't be next to Rosa's. It wasn't a family conference. It was when just Mama and I came to visit. So there was only Uncle Cross's family, Mama and me. There was fewer people, so we didn't sit in the same spot as the family conference. And Rosa was sitting in the seat next to you? Yeah. Why does that matter? It doesn't. Have you ever met with Beatrice outside Rokenjima? No, after all, Beatrice's body is fragile, so she can go wherever she... C'est pas Rosa qui est juste venue lui donner un bon bec. En lui disant, vas-y, je vais me faire passer pour Béatrice, comme ça elle va m'écouter. I said I wouldn't mind letting her process me, but she said she couldn't because she couldn't leave the island. And after that, you met her every time you came to Rokenjima. Yeah, we became really good friends. The more I talked to Beata, the more I realized what an amazing witch she was. She showed me wonderful magic every time I saw her. Then she told me about a magical compendium that was different from mine, and we both talked together about the mysteries of magic. I wanted to reach her level as soon as I could. I wanted to become the kind of witch Beata was. Did you ever introduce Beatrice to your mother? No, she said Mama's toxin was too... Il y a vraiment un monde où c'est Rosa qui lui a juste donné des bons becs en lui... en lui disant brosse-toi les dents en rentrant, sois sage. C'est juste ça. They couldn't meet each other yet. Almost all adults are no good when it comes to the toxin, because they're all tainted. Was anyone other than you able to see Beatrice? They couldn't at first. She said that her magical powers were weak, so her body would crumble if even a little bit of the toxin reached her. But she gathered magical power bit by bit, and she could eventually appear in front of the other people who had small amount of toxin. And who was that? There weren't many of them, just a few of the servants. Specifically, all of the servants here today. But not Godathan, I think. So there were 4 of them: Genji, Shannon, Kanon, and Kumasawa. On peut dire 3. And Dr. Ninja too. Apparently they will sometimes come to visit Mario and Beatrice's witch tea parties. Of course, they'll only come by for minor things like bringing some more tea. However, they were certainly aware of Beatrice and even talked with her. How did the servants react to Beatrice? She was a guest who shouldn't have existed. Weren't they surprised? Of course not. After all, Beatrice is the other master of the mansion. He said that their servant treated Beatrice as an honored guest, and sometimes they were permitted to witness the miracle of magic along with Maria. So of the Rokanjima in 1986, the one who could actually meet with Beatrice were you, Nanjo, and the 4 servants excluding Goda. For a total of 6? Yeah. Beta said she'd need to store much more magical power before she could appear in front of anyone else. So she intended to show herself in front of more people sometimes in the future. Yeah, she said the date she met all the humans and acknowledged her will be the day of her resurrection. Married servants and Nanjo had acknowledged her. She had probably appeared before new humans and one by one, starting with those whose anti-magic toxin was weakest. Beatrice's game was to increase the number of humans who could recognize her, until she could make everyone on the island acknowledge her. Of that, there can be no doubt. In that case, the last person Beatrice needed to appear in front of would be Battler, the one said to have the strongest anti-magical power. Does this mean Beatrice thought Battler would be the hardest to convince? It seems true that Battler was one of Beatrice's goals. However, if we go with that chessboard, thinking Battler loved so much, Beatrice is trying to make people acknowledge her existence. Therefore, you might say that she's a character who can't exist unless people acknowledge her. Battler reached this idea himself as soon as the first game. Yet something different about the Beatrice of 1986. She's different from the Italian Beatrice or the Ecuadorian Beatrice, both of whom certainly did exist. The Beatrice of 1986, the one we're so familiar with in a mysterious way, yet who has no existence. What does it mean to kill this Beatrice who had no existence? The minimum number of people required to create a world and universe is 2. However, Maria said that even a single person could give birth to a universe. And yet Maria desired a second person. A second person to nurture the world she had given birth to alone. Because if it was born and not nurtured, it would die and disappear? Let's replace the world universe with Beatrice. The minimum number of people required to create Beatrice is 2. However, even a single person could give birth to her, and yet that single person desired a second person. The second person can acknowledge the Beatrice created by the first person. That meeting with the second person is the scene Maria just described. The single person who created Beatrice looked for a second person to acknowledge Beatrice, and selected Maria. We don't need further Rika's heartless reasoning to know that the teacup magic was a sleight of hand. Maria, believing in the story about the anti-magic toxin, will close her eyes whenever magic happened. Any sleight of hand would be possible while she had her eye closed. The caramel Maria had been given as proof of her meeting with the witch had melted a little because Maria had dumped it. In a season where one was likely to put ice in their tea, it was only natural for a caramel left in the bag to melt. Reassure me, Maria, the girl who's too trusting and will accept the story easily. Beatrice appeared at first in the front of this girl, who had in the language of witches very little of the anti-magic toxin. The creation of Beatrice can be thought of as an egg being laid. When a single person creates her, it's little more than a daydream. She's still inside the egg. If and only if a second person acknowledges her, then shell will crack and she'll appear. She'll only appear if a second person comes to warm the egg. When Maria acknowledged Beatrice, she finally hatched and the chick was born. In that case, Maria's Socia, which nurtured Beatrice and her magical compendium, was like a nest. This is Beatrice, a woman with a dignified presence, who calls herself the Witch of Rokanjima and who claims to have lived 1,000 years. That sounds less like the chick Beato, who appeared in the previous game, and more like Beato the Elder. So did the meeting Maria just recounted mark the birth of Beato the Elder? The egg itself had already been created by the first person. Between then and the meeting with Maria, it matured immensely inside the shell into a character with the dignified presence of 1,000 years. Then when Maria acknowledged it hatched and the Witch of Rokanjima finally gained form. Perhaps that moment marked the birth of the Beatrice of 1986. The younger chick Beato was born out of love of Battler. Since that birth hadn't yet occurred at this point in time, the birth of Beato the Elder and the existence of Beatrice at the moment must have nothing to do with Battler. Are you enjoying this reasoning, Berncastle? If you are, let's at least give some applause from the spectators. Bien sûr. Great, thanks a bunch. I wish for Beato to grant me a lot of things with magic. That's why I'm helping with her resurrection. What is it you wish for? Lots and lots. Not telling. They wanted to protect your mama from the Black Witch. How did you know that? You're incredible. And you're already sure that you'll never be able to get that world back without a witch's help? Yep, I love Mama. She's so nice. I want to be with her forever. For all eternity. Now I'd like to hear about Maria Sorcier. What's wrong? Don't wanna. Huh? I'm thirsty, so I'm gonna go get something to drink. See you later. Maria became suddenly formal, bowed her head and left without waiting for a reply. It was a very un-Maria-like thing to do. I see. So the game master has moved the piece. Apparently she's telling me to ask about something different. At some point, Leon! I started chatting with the other family members. Jessica seemed to be getting irritated at having her butt pinched so much, and George was trying to calm her down. Jessica and George. Guess I'll hear the story next. Compared to Maria, the anti-magic toxin is very strong in these two. At least at the beginning of the other games, they didn't acknowledge Beatrice. Maria showed me the point of view of one who believes, not to hear from those who don't. Je pense que je vais m'arrêter là. C'est parfait, il y a le match dans 15 minutes. Mais c'est reveal sur reveal là. Même si pour l'instant c'est des petits reveals entre guillemets. Si on monte en gamme, ça va vite être incroyable, je pense. Ça me paraît pas mal. Il y a le match dans 15 minutes, on va pas risquer de repartir sur un truc, je pense. Une petite session, mais session très cool, on apprend beaucoup de trucs. Il n'y a pas grand chose à dire, mais à part le fait que qui est la Béatrice qui apparaît devant Maria. Il y a des chances que ce soit Rosa, parce que le coup de lave-toi les mains, brosse-toi les dents, machin, c'est que un truc qu'une mère dirait à sa fille. Ça peut très bien être un des servants aussi. Ça peut très bien être Shannon, par exemple, vu que, selon ma théorie et tout, bah je ne sais pas. Mais en tout cas, c'est très sympa. La jeunesse de Kinzo aussi, incroyable. Incroyable. On essaiera d'en apprendre plus demain. Je vais essayer de jouer demain, même s'il y a beaucoup de matchs de Coupe du Monde et que je vais essayer de les regarder. Bisous YouTube, à demain pour la suite du chapitre 7. Ciao ciao.